Welcome back. In today's show, Mark and Michaela Logue. They are relationship and intimacy trainers. Normally, this part of the show, I'll give you a little bit of a teaser of what's to come up in the episode. This episode is packed with so many great tips, tricks, tools, advice that I wouldn't even know where to start. So please, sit back, listen. You will absolutely love this episode.
Welcome to this edition of Peak Performance Podcast with your host, Thor Conklin. Thor will be sharing the necessary tools, strategies, and psychology you'll need to become a peak performer in any area of your life or business.
Thor Conklin here. We give you the tricks, the tips, the tools, strategies, technology, and the psychology peak performers use in order to get more done and execute better than 99.9% of the population. If you know what to do, but you struggle with getting it all done, or you simply want to raise your game and get more done, this podcast is for you. Sit back and enjoy. Mark and Michaela Logue are relationships experts, relationship coaches, and intimacy trainers. What makes them different from so many other relationship experts who actually aren't even in a relationship? Mark and Michaela are actually a happily married couple. They met through online dating. Yes, online dating. Both Mark and Michaela feel that there is a specific method to finding an amazing partner, or if you have a partner already, keeping them happy for the long term. They share their methods of creating higher levels of intimacy, passion, communication, and connection between couples. There were so many great concepts shared that this interview is actually broken into 3 episodes. Well, Mark, Michaela, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for taking the time to share with our audience. I know that you've got so many tips and tricks and psychology ideas for us. So I just want to hand the show over to you and just give us some ideas of what you're doing with your clients.
Oh, that's such a great question, Thor. And
Yeah.
First of all, we want to thank you for inviting us onto the show. We're a huge fan of you, and it was great when I met you a few years ago. And you're a big lad. You're one of those opposing Viking type fellows, and you're appropriately named with the name Thor. Thor. Such a great name.
Yes.
So,
Well, thank you. And what I love about you guys is that you're a couple teaching couples. So often you find that there's people, putting up a shingle saying, I'll help you with your relationship, and they're not in a relationship.
Oh, yes, absolutely. We found that as well. And when we first met, we realized that we were both coaches, and we didn't know that going in when we first met, that we were both into personal development and that we had been working with a lot of people. So I think it was kismet.
Nice. The other thing is that you both came out of divorce and you found each other. I went through a divorce as well. So it always doesn't start great, but it can end up great. So give the audience a little bit of an idea of what you guys went through prior and how did you get to the level that you're at now?
Thor, I'll speak here for myself. I'm not going to ever speak for my lovely better half over here because
that's tip number one.
Yes,
that's tip number
one.
Tip number one, when you're married to an amazing woman, let her speak her own mind. And if you don't, my advice is sleep with one eye open.
Absolutely. Happy wife, happy life. Okay, let's keep going.
Tip number 2.
Tip number 2. So you're right. We both came from divorce, and the process of divorce is a painful process. Look, I grew up in Ireland, and when you grow up in Ireland, you're used to using your hands, you're used to building stuff. And, in order to build a house, the first thing you have to do is you have to excavate the land. You have to get rid of what was there beforehand. So before you start the exploration process of going out to find somebody for yourself, you have to excavate what was there. And I took myself through that excavation process, and I looked in the mirror after my divorce and I said, wait a second, what role did I play? Who was I in that relationship that caused this divorce? And our divorce ended in such a way that we will probably never speak to each other again, with the exception of when we're at graduations and weddings for our children. So I looked at that and I said, this was not how I wanted any relationship in my life to end. So I had to look at my part in that. And that took me a 2 to 3 year process to really excavate, to till the soil, to look at what I needed to remove, what I needed to replace before I even thought about building the next house, the next relationship house that I was going to move into later on in my life. And that process, like I said, took a couple of years. And then I started to design the woman that I wanted to have in my life. I wanted to design what she was, who she was, what she looked like, what she sounded like, what she felt like to me, what the energy was when I was with her, what our energy was together, what we were allowed to do. Were we in a place of openness? Were we in a place of joy? And it's a place where there was no judgment. Because Thor, anybody who's been in a rough relationship or has gone through a divorce or any sort of breakup, any long-term relationship breakup, knows that there's periods when you're walking on eggshells because you're not being your authentic self, because you're in that place where you're trying to please the other person. And very often in trying to please the other person, if it's the wrong person, you become somebody that's not true to your core. So the key thing was find who I was, find who I wanted to be, and make sure that the person on the other side, I was a reflection of her and she was a reflection of me. That relationship house that I was building was to be a safe place, a fun place, a place of laughter, a place where I could be me, she could be her, and we could grow together. And when I met Michaela, I wrote a poem. Look, being Irish, we grew up writing limericks, playing songs, playing the guitar, doodling around. Being artistic is just part of the culture. So I wrote a poem, and at the end of the poem, I said, 1 + 1 = 3. And that's the basis of our relationship. Michaela brings what she brings to the table. I bring what I bring to the table. And when we do it together, the addition of the 1 + 1 doesn't equal 2. The addition of the 1 + 1 = 3.
That's beautiful. I like what you said there is that no matter what the relationship was like before, everybody has a responsibility in it. And looking at yourself and saying, what responsibility do I have here? And really looking to rebuild your house. It's funny. I've got clients that I speak with, and I go, what are you looking for? And they write down, this is what I'm looking for. This is who I want in my life. Mm-hmm. And then my last question is, who do you need to become? Mm-hmm. Because they've got their list also.
Mm. Absolutely.
Mm. And 9 times out of 10, there's a silence. There's that awkward pause, there's that pregnant pause when you ask that question, because the person looks and they go, "Oh, I'm not really that reflection yet."
Yeah.
And that you're asking me the question about me. You mean I have to change? You mean I have to grow? You mean I have to step into this version? I have to become what I want this person to be?
You mean I have to look at myself in the mirror first?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Mm.
And this is the response that we get when we first are evaluating clients when they first come to us. It's an exploration. When we first take on a client. And we don't take on every client that comes to us because it requires a level of openness, coachability, and exploration. And if the person who's coming to us for intimacy training, which is what we like to call it, if they're coming to us, they need to know that they require to be open and coachable and open to explore areas of themselves that they may not have even ever looked at.
You bring up an interesting point. I think for women, that's a little bit easier. For men, it's like, I just want to get this fixed, or fix her. A lot of times is what it is. How do you get the men to open up and be authentic?
Yeah, that piece of it is, like you said, that can be a challenge, and you find that different men from different parts of the world, different cultures, come with the moniker of, well, I'm a man, I don't do that. I'm a man, I don't cry. I'm a man, I'm not supposed to be that way. And men are more in a cage. We're far more in a cage than women are. So one of the key things is to get the man to embrace the feminine side, to embrace that side, that his power is not just in the masculine. It's not just in a piece of the masculine. The power actually comes from when you're able to step into the side that allows you to collaborate. There's tremendous growth in the feminine. When we can be in touch with the soft side, when we can be in touch with that smile.
As in men.
We as in men.
Yes,
I'm talking about the men right now. When we as men can be in touch with that soft side, the father who can pick up a baby and hold the baby and cry with the baby because the baby just looked up into his eyes. the father who plays with his kids in the backyard, the father who's there to be supportive for his woman, the husband who can listen to his woman without having to fix it. There's tremendous power in that. And all that a man needs is an awareness, an education in that process. Because Thor, I don't know about you, what your lineage is, but I can tell you, me being raised in Donegal, Ireland, our history goes back to the 1600s when you look at our lineage going all the way back. So the beliefs that I carried with me from Ireland to America, the beliefs came from my grandfather, which came from his father, which came from his father, which came from his father. So I was carrying beliefs as to what it was like to be a man from 300 or 400 years ago. Think about that. Most men are carrying a belief system from 300 or 400 years ago, if not longer, and that belief system needs to be challenged, must be challenged, if men are able to grow to a different level, to become more than they've become in touch with the masculine side again. Because over the course of the last 50 years, you've had this amazing revolution, which was the feminine revolution. It was that period in the late 60s when you had segregation for blacks was eliminated in this country, in America. And at the same time, you had that female revolution where women needed to step up and say, hey, listen, I'm tired of being raped. I'm tired of being a house slave. I'm tired of being a sex slave. I'm tired of being put down. I'm tired of being subjugated by the masculine who's afraid of the power and the strength that I have. I need to revolt. And the great thing about that is women are in the roles that they're in today, in jobs that they're in education. More people in college today are women than men. It's something like 53% female versus 47% male. CEOs are becoming females. However, in that 40 to 50 year process, there has been a making wrong of the masculine. There has been a making wrong of, that's not what a man should do. Don't be like your father. Don't be like your grandfather. This is what I need you to be. This is who I need you to be. This is who I need you to act like. So men are confused today. There's a lot of confusion. There's a state of confusion between men and women. And part of our coaching and part of our teaching and part of our education process is to bring you back and to eliminate the wrongness, to give you freedom to say, this is what it means to be a man. This is what it means to be a woman. Uh-oh, Michaela's going to take over here. Here she comes.
Yeah, so, Thor, when I first started coaching with Mark, I brought a different coaching style to the table than he already had. And one of the things that I brought to the table was that as a woman, I 100% own fully my feminine power. And what that means is that being truly in my feminine power means that I am power, and that I collaborate, and that I lift people up, and that I nurture. The most sweet and wonderful thing about truly being in your feminine is that the feminine wants to see the other person be better, and wants to see them grow, and wants to nurture, and wants to collaborate in her family, in the group of people she works with, wherever she is. She wants to have that collaboration. And so when I started working with Mark, when I brought my coaching style to the table, he definitely was very kind of enlivened by it. He was like, ooh, this is really cool. Why? Because I want to take away the wrongness that is currently in the coaching world. I want to lift people up. I want to make people feel like they can conquer and can grow. And being made wrong, or making yourself wrong, or saying, I need to fix this. We need to fix this marriage. We need to fix our communication. I need to go to a weekend seminar and I need to learn the tips that I need to fix this wrongness, because this is wrong and everything about us is wrong. I came to the table with the idea of, how about you embrace what is actually happening? How about we look at the reasons why we are doing what we're doing, saying what we're saying, feeling what we're feeling? How about we take a look underneath and go deeper? How about we look back to all of the beliefs that have been given to us by our mothers and grandmothers and great grandmothers, et cetera, et cetera. I keep going backwards years and years and years. How about we take a deeper look and embrace all sides of us and create an environment of growth and of healing versus an environment of wrongness?
So well said. You know, and the messaging I think that so many women are getting today in today's society is be tough, be masculine. You don't need a man to get, what you want. And it's such a disservice.
It really is. And I will say this, when I first met Mark, I told him in the first date, I said, I have no interest in wearing the pants in this marriage, in this situation, in this relationship. I'm looking for a husband. I'm not looking for a play toy. I'm not looking for a hookup. I'm not looking for a temporary thing. I'm looking for a man who is strongly rooted in his masculinity, and I'm looking for a man who is open to accept my feminine power. And he just kind of stepped back and was like, oh, and his little green eyes started to sparkle. It was really funny.
Good.
And I said to him, I said, I have no interest in wearing the pants. So if you are looking for a woman who wants to wear the pants, then you have the wrong woman.
It was funny. My girlfriend and I, we were at my gym, and there was a situation that wasn't going the right way, and I was dealing with the manager, and then she kind of steps in. She just moves in, and she's like, blah, 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 blah. I was like, honey, I've got this. And she looked at me, and she backed away, and I took care of it. I said, honey, I didn't mean to dismiss you there. I've got this. And she looked at me. She goes, I was in a marriage that I always had to step up and I had to be the man in the relationship. And she goes, I'm not used to being in a relationship with a man actually takes care of this stuff.
Exactly, Thor. Thank you for saying that. Thank you for sharing that, because this is how we start our intimacy retreats. When we do an intimacy retreat, it's a 2.5-day, wonderful, gorgeous, passion-filled, juicy event. Fun-filled event for our couples and our newly singles. And we'll get into the newly single thing in a minute. When we start this intimacy retreat, we start with this conversation. We start with, what is the role that you have been playing in your marriage and or long-term relationship? Is the woman wearing the pants and the man wearing the panties? Because you know what? If that's what turns you on, okay. However,
make sure it's a conscious decision.
Make sure that you're actually choosing the man wearing those lacy panties, if you know what I mean. Okay. However, we walk into this retreat breaking down those walls. Letting people know, let's talk about these roles, these gender roles that have been given to us and maybe imposed onto us by our parents or our society, et cetera, et cetera. Let's take a look at, ladies, are you being the man here? Are you wearing the pants more often than not, and then wonder why your man doesn't step up?
I love when Michaela says to me, Thor, he has a vagina.
Thor, when I was dating, looking for this beautiful Irish man in front of me, and I was doing a conscious, active dating. My dating was not an unconscious, let me just sleep around, let me just kind of, be asleep at the wheel. Yeah. I was very conscious when I was dating. I stepped into, I am being intentional about finding the man that I want to spend the rest of my life with. And I have to say, Thor, and no offense to some of the guys out there, however, I'm about to stretch the envelope here and say that there were more men out there with vaginas than with penises.
Yeah, no, I completely get that. When I was dating, the same thing on the women's side, just kind of reversed. And there would be beautiful women, exterior, and within seconds, it was like, no, this is not a good fit. You're trying to be more masculine than I am.
Oh, yeah.
Let me ask you a question, because I was in a relationship when I was married, and I became that pleaser. My ex-wife became the more dominant figure. As I started to understand what that was causing in a relationship, and I started to make the shift and regain my masculinity, it really started to cause some big friction. What do you tell people out there that may have the roles switched and they're trying to get it back to their core, their center? How do couples work through that?
I'm going to let Mark take this and then I'll jump in afterwards.
She's going to jump back in. At the end of the day, the outcome is that you want to be in a happy relationship, right?
Yes.
Everybody wants to have that fun-filled, passionate, intimate growth. Whatever you're looking for, that's ultimately what you're looking for. There are times we make the wrong decision about choosing a partner. I can tell you that the long-term relationship and the marriage I was in, I knew, Thor, I knew in my gut, my intuition, that was the wrong partner for me. However, I still went through with it. So I call this, we have 4 energy centers. We have our brain, we have our intellect, that's our conscious, that houses our consciousness. We have our heart, that's our love center, that's our romantic center, that's the place that, you see the old black and white films and you're like, oh, he rides off into the wind, right into the sunset, he's got the cowboy hat on and the girl's on the back of the horse and he's just saved her. That's that piece. Then we have the intuition. That's that second brain that Mother Nature has given all of us, men and women have it. And that intuitive piece is so powerful. And how that shows up for all of us is you get that hormonal release in your body. You get a feeling in your stomach. You get a feeling in the pit of your stomach, or you get a tension across your chest, or you get heat across your chest, or you get heat across your face, or you get your throat. It shows up in some part of your body. Most of us choose to ignore that because our head is the conscious place that we go to. And then, of course, the last energy center is right between the legs for most of us. It's the lust center. So when I met the mother of my kids, there were 2 centers that ruled for me. My lust and my conscious, my head. But my intuition told me from day one, this is not right. So fast forward into the relationship. I was in the relationship and I was that pleaser. Let me please this woman. Let me make this woman happy. Let me become something that I'm truly not, in hopes that I can please her. And in doing that, I lost, like I said earlier, I lost myself. And when you lose yourself, you ultimately get lost in the relationship. And there comes a point, like you just said, when you started to get back to your center, to become who you are at your core, who the real Thor is. When he walks into a room, he looks in the mirror, he goes, you know what? I like that man. I like him. I love him. I like him. I respect him. When you can say that and then the other person on the other side of the room doesn't like you, that might not be the right choice for you. So then you have to make the decision. Do I want to stay in this relationship? Do I want to stay and make the best of it? Is that who I am? I make the best of something that might not be the best situation? Or do we decide to go our separate ways and have an amazing friendship for the rest of our lives? There's always a choice to be made. There's always a choice to be made. And it comes from being true to yourself and knowing who you are in that moment and understanding what the possible outcomes are. The worst possible outcome is that you stay where you are, you don't remain true to yourself, and then an ugly split comes, be it in the form of a divorce, be it in the form of we'll never speak to each other again. And that's the outcome. That's the worst outcome. And that, unfortunately, is the outcome that is happening all too often in today's, I won't say American society, but I'll say in Western society.
Michaela, what's your thoughts?
Thank you for opening that up, Mark, because he is absolutely right. And when we are working with our couples and when we are doing our intimacy retreats, and people have asked us this, what do I do? How do I bridge this gap? I want to please that person, but they are just unpleasable. And maybe some of your listeners have had people like this in their life. I know I have. Or it's no matter what you do, it's a bottomless pit. It's no matter what you do for this person, no matter how much you try to make them laugh, no matter how much you try to please them, it just never ends. You can never please the person. And here's the thing. Your job is not to complete the other person. The movie Jerry Maguire was wrong. I am going to now make a very controversial statement. You complete me is wrong. And normally I don't even like to use the word.
I agree.
Right? I don't like to use the word wrong because wrong obviously implies wrongness, right? However, that statement, which is what Hollywood has been feeding us, you complete me, is a step in the wrong direction for couples and a step in the wrong directions for people who want to grow and want to be better and want to be stronger and want to be more whole, because that's what we like to share with our couples and our singles. a wholeness. It's a conversation about being whole as a person. And when you're trying to please another person who can never be pleased, what you're trying to do is you're trying to complete them. And you're going down the wrong road because you can never complete another person. That person has to go in within themselves and complete themselves. They have to look deep within first to start to complete themselves.
You know, you bring up an interesting point. That's obviously bad advice for couples. You complete me. What's some other bad advice that you see out there that's kind of common practice that is not good? That concludes part 1 of our interview with Mark and Michaela. Please tune in later this week to find out the answers to not only this question, but other questions as well. If you've not already subscribed to the show, please go to iTunes, subscribe, download all the episodes. After listening to them, please leave us a rating. Hopefully that rating is a 5-star rating, so we're able to reach more people with these episodes. You can follow us on Facebook and Twitter at Thor Conklin. The website is thorconklin.com. While at the website, please sign up for our newsletter for additional tricks, tips, tools, and strategies on how to be a peak performer. Any questions or comments, you can send that to info@thorconklin.com. Remember, these episodes are anywhere between 6 and 35 minutes and are designed to be consumed during dot time, doing other things. Decide to be a peak performer in all that you do. And until tomorrow, have an absolutely amazing day.